Hey there, Tim Jones here. Got a minute? I thought I might read to you a letter that I sent to Dollar Rent-A-Car. You see, recently I rented a car from them, and well, to be more accurate, I should clarify my previous statement. I tried to rent a car from them, but things kind of skidded off the road, and behind me is the actual Dollar Rent-A-Car counter where it happened. You see, it was a little before midnight. I had just arrived in my hometown of Albany, New York, and this is what the counter looked like right after they informed me that they would not rent a car to me, despite the small detail that they had agreed that I did in fact have a reservation. People often ask me, Tim, where do you come up with your ideas for your View from the Bleachers articles and videos? Well, in this case, I want to thank Dollar Rent-A-Car. Without the help of this fine rental car company, this week's video would not have been possible. I'll read you the letter that I sent to Dollar about my experience on the other side. Dear Dollar Rent-A-Car, I want to tell you about my most unforgettable experience that took place when I made the, admittedly foolhardy decision to rent a car from your company. I had just flown into Albany, New York airport with plans to see my family and attend my high school's 50th class reunion, so I needed a car. A minor detail, I made my reservation 2 months before my trip. Now, I'll be the first person to admit that I had made an egregious mistake. I placed a reservation online with Dollar Rent-A-Car. I selected an economy vehicle. I hope you don't feel like I was being too cheap by not going for your luxury SUV option instead. Sorry. Anywho, my flight into Albany arrived 3 hours late. This was totally my fault, of course, because I had made the reckless decision to try to save a few bucks by flying Spirit Airlines. What was I thinking? I'll never make that mistake again. But I digress. I arrived at your airport rental car counter in Albany at precisely 11:30 p.m., 30 minutes before it closed for the night. Now, the employee at the counter named Tony immediately found my reservation in your system, and I only had to wait another 22 minutes for Tony to casually inform me, looks like I can't give you a car. You're on our DNR list. Perplexed, I asked Tony if I had heard him correctly. Did you say I'm on a DNR list? What's that? I asked, a little confused. And Tony explained in a voice that some people might mistake as sounding rather gruff and irritated, but I'm sure was intended to exude warmth and empathy, that DNR stood for Do Not Rent. I quickly surmised that it sounded like it was like an airline's no-fly list, but for rental cars. Turns out I had been officially banned from travel with Dollar Rent-A-Car. So I asked Tony, can you tell me why I'm on Dollar's rental blacklist? That's do not rent list, Tony snapped in what probably was a lot cheerier a voice than it sounded. How the hell would I know why? Maybe you have a criminal conviction, or maybe you failed to pay some outstanding speeding tickets. No, Tony, neither of those applied to me. I calmly tried to explain, but Tony did not seem impressed by my patient clarification. Well, you must have done something wrong, fella, Tony barked again in the kindest, most affirming voice. Tony wrote down a phone number. Call our DNR department during business hours tomorrow, and maybe they can explain why. Now, we're officially closed for the night. I gotta go. I want to thank you, Dollar Rent-A-Car, for not telling me I was on your DNR list until 11:52 p.m., just as all the airport rental car counters were closing for the night. I would have hated to have received this helpful information, say, 2 months ago when I first placed my reservation, while I still had time to make alternate rental car arrangements. It would have totally deprived me of the memorable opportunity to spend quality time with Tony, your superstar employee. So there I was at midnight, stuck at the Albany airport with no car, and all the rental car counters were now closed for the night. And now you may find this next part hilarious. I know I sure will. Maybe 10 years from now. I was supposed to drive an hour north of Albany to meet a close friend, but thanks to your DNR policy, I had no choice but to shell out money for a cab and stay at a nearby hotel instead. I called the nearest Courtyard by Marriott. I spoke to a lovely person named Donna. I explained to Donna that I was in a bit of a jam and I desperately needed a place for just one night. And to my great elation, Donna told me, "Mr. Jones, you're in luck. We have one room left." Within minutes, I was in an Uber heading for the hotel, and when I lugged my luggage into the hotel lobby, Donna met me with a sheepish expression on her face. Uh-oh. She apologized that she had made a mistake. It turned out there were no rooms available after all. And then I called 12 other hotels, and there was no room at any of them. I felt like Joseph and Mary looking for an inn on Christmas Eve. So here's my question. Did Dollar Rent-A-Car have someone call all the local hotels to inform them to place me on the do not rent a hotel room list as well? I was most curious to learn the reason why I was put on your firm's do not rent list. Well, the following morning, I called the DNR phone number that Tony gave me, and a cheery customer service person named Brianna put me on a brief 5-minute hold, and then another 10-minute hold, and after what barely felt like another 15 minutes, she accidentally disconnected my call. I called in again, and in less than 20 minutes, I reached Christina with a C, or maybe it was Christina with a K. I'm sorry, I failed to ask how she spelled her name. And she said that I had been placed on your elite "we hate you" list because apparently I had the same last name as someone else who had failed to pay their bill. Well, that's an easy to understand mistake, seeing as how we were probably the only two people with the last name Jones in your entire 100,000 person customer database. I'm pleased to report that Christina wasted no time in apologizing to me, by which I mean she did not bother to apologize. But that's okay. I'm sure she was having a bad day, probably from having to deal with hundreds of other people calling in to complain about being put on your DNR list by mistake. I asked Christina if she could reverse the $450 rental car charge that I paid when I originally reserved a vehicle, since your company refused to rent me the car. She helpfully explained that she could not help me, as she worked for the DNR department and I would need to call your customer severance department. Whoops. I meant customer service department. My bad. I finally reached a representative named Roy, who I have to say possessed almost as polished a set of interpersonal skills as Tony from the rental car counter. Now, Roy explained that he could not issue me a refund because, well, I needed to have canceled my reservation at least 24 hours before the rental date, and I had failed to do so. Wow, I must say, did not see that one coming. So I explained in vain to Roy that I did not actually cancel my reservation, Dollar did. And never quite understanding my point, Roy finally explained that I'd have to call their billing department to submit a refund request. Well, it's been 3 weeks now, and I'm still waiting for a call back. So, Dollar Rent-A-Car, you have given me a newfound appreciation of just how rare outstanding customer service is, at least anywhere within the ranks of Dollar Rent-A-Car. I have a new appreciation for the meaning of the phrase, being taken for a ride. I hope you won't mind my sharing my memorable experience with a few thousand of my closest Facebook friends, not to mention on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Dollar Rent-A-Car, thank you for providing me with an exceptional customer service experience. Had it not been for your capable team of superstars, I would never have had the memorable opportunity I had, and I would not have been able to publish this video. I hope you'll forgive me if the next time I need to rent a car, I accidentally misplace your phone number and call Avis instead. Sincerely, Tim Jones, former customer.